Hey everybody, it's Barbara, and today we are doing a Miniature Monday that is dedicated to some pieces that I've gotten over the past year from the Etsy seller, Morphy Miniatures. I highly recommend her. She's incredibly good. She's incredibly detailed. I very much appreciate the quality of her work. If you notice, the Me doll happens to be holding an imitation LV box in her hand. And this is actually the first piece I bought from Morphy Miniatures. It is what Louis Vuitton used to make. It wasn't just, by the way, making luggage, which of course I'll talk about in a second, but it was also things like this, which is a gentleman's shoe polish case. It has, or a gentleman, well, some of it is, it's a gentleman's traveling case. These are the potion bottles that if I had filled them, would have things like shoe polish or cologne or bath shampoo in them. Also comes with a brush and a comb, very nicely scaled. And then this part would probably be other things like the toothbrush, the shaving brush. I haven't found anything like that to put in there yet. I will get there. I just happen to like it. It's just very nice, and of course it's going to match the other two pieces. If you were watching the Tiny Bar review from last Monday, I said I was going to do this in part because Morphunky made a traveling bar, which I will now show you. And as I'm very delicately opening it up, I'm going to tell you why LV would have done this. Try to remember, guys, Louis Vuitton has been around for about 150 years. Vuitton himself is 200 years old this year. And when you would travel, if you traveled, you were not just going somewhere for a weekend. You were going somewhere for a long time. So you had to bring a lot of stuff with you. And of course, the wealthier you were, the more stuff you had. So if you were going on, let's say, a transatlantic or trans-Pacific voyage, sure, you would be able to go to the ship's bar or the hotel bar and drink there, but you would probably also want to have your own personal collection. And that is what this represents. Unfortunately, there's a bottle that got trapped in there. I will have to very gently pull it out. It's a bottle of wine, and I don't want to, the idea is, of course, you would put the bottles in here. But what she also gave me with this was a little book, which of course would come with this, The Art of Mixology. This book does not open, though there are innumerable people on Etsy and eBay who do miniature books. Would also come with, this folds down so you would have the space to make your drinks. This is a nice huge bucket of ice. So for example, this space here would either be the bucket of ice for the champagne, or you would put the decanter of whiskey or scotch. Here is another bottle of, this is a white wine, and there of course very nicely are two miniature white wine bottles. Morphy very nicely gave me an extra strap, which I have yet to glue in to put in more of the tools, but I just wanted to show you. If I can bring this over. Again, talking about playability. These are various bottles from the Campari bottle, if you'll remember, from Tiny Bar. And then you have, you would have to make your drinks. The shaker. the shot pourer, and then of course, besides the shaker, you have the strainer, and the pitcher to make the drinks for everybody, and then an extra glass. And as you can see, all of that would fit very nicely onto this bar. And then you would store the bottles like so. Or perhaps even if they were smaller bottles or you wanted to keep them chilled, you would put them in here with the ice. So that was pretty much what you would have. And this is what you would travel with if you were traveling, especially transatlantic or transpacific. You might even take it on a long train trip. But you were expected to take these sorts of things with you. But I am particularly appreciative of this freestanding bag of ice, which will, of course, go everywhere. And very nicely, I just lay the bottles down, the taller bottles at least. I'm not going to pour the ice out, but if you notice, now everything then closes up and you're ready to travel. The other trunk that she very nicely made for me, and of course, by the way, I paid for these. This is an accessory trunk, and this is the same idea. This is for the jewelry. This is a little clutch purse that came with some cash. She's British, but she was very nice enough to print out American money. I do appreciate that lovely detail. And this is an older LV pattern. And then there's another smaller purse down here, which if I had tongs I could pull out, but I'm not going to. And then, what would you put in here? Well, again, this is the lady, so she would have, the various drawers, her hairbrush, her comb, probably some gloves, perhaps the smaller pieces of her lingerie, or, in each drawer would be other jewelry sets, and then the one she was going to wear on a given night, she would put on display here, or more than likely, her traveling maid would do that for her. So that, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, this is a shorter video, but that in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, is how the other half lived at the beginning of the 20th century. This is how they traveled. They literally brought everything with them. And if you ever get a chance to take a look at still photos from the Louis Vuitton exhibit that was on tour throughout the country, throughout the United States, I think throughout the world, 2 or 3 years ago, you get a greater sense of just how many pieces like this there were. They were generally about this size, and by size I mean to stand up this doll, who of course just loses her shoes. They were about this tall, which is at knee height or higher or taller, and they would hold things. There were separate trunks for the undergarments, for the outer garments. Louis Vuitton at one point, I'm sorry I don't have this to show you, but at one point he made, in the shape of a tire, he made what was in a sense the chauffeur's kit, where you could potentially put a spare tire in there, but then underneath that you had some simple tools to make some small roadside repairs as necessary, change the oil, fix a flat. And then there was also there was a space for either the spare uniform or the overalls to put over the uniform so it didn't get dirty. That was all a part of it. There were trunks for typewriters and stationery. There were trunks that were just meant to take your library with you. These were all things that were very much part of a traveler's existence, I would say traveling like this probably through the 1930s. Once World War II happened, I don't think you had people traveling with their libraries as much. I don't think you had people, certainly the clothing changed dramatically. So you didn't have separate trunks for undergarments because they weren't as uh, stylized. You didn't, you now, after World War II, a gentleman's shirt or a woman's blouse did not have separate cuffs. Everything was one piece. You did not have separate collars. Everything, again, one piece. The amount of undergarments you wore, you may have worn a slip, but you weren't wearing a slip and pantaloons and stockings. That all changed. So the need for these specialized trunks like this changed. I don't think, I really don't think, I think whatever chauffeurs would use to keep their change of clothes in probably wasn't as stylized or as available to them as a Vuitton piece of luggage would be. All of this is to say, and this goes into the playability, do you get this? Well, I'll tell you, Morphunky Miniatures does a whole bunch of different kinds of luggage and other little accessories. So you definitely check out her Etsy store. And I highly recommend that you go and see what kind of pieces she does. I recommend her as a miniature artist. She's fantastic. So in a modern diorama, maybe you would buy different, you might buy different kinds of luggage that more closely resembles what we do. But these are pieces that are really very specific if you're talking about, you want to do like a historical diorama. If you're doing something that goes along with, for example, the East 59th Street line from Integrity Toys. Or if Mattel ever does a decades collection like they did some years ago where they had the fabulous 40s and then they had the 30s and they had the roaring 20s. That's where that would go. I'm also thinking of the various Godfather figures. These are action figures, of course. But that is to say that they would have also had pieces like this that they would have traveled with. So it depends. These kind of pieces would really go for characters, action figures, and dolls that are set pre-World War II. I still encourage you to get it. I mean, Morphy's craftsmanship is amazing, but I also just wanted to put it in that perspective and give you a little bit of a history lesson on how it was to travel back in the day. I'm probably going to talk about this again toward the end of 2021 because I'm getting another figure that also did a transatlantic voyage that would have also had luggage like this. So I hope you enjoy this miniature video for Miniature Monday and for Morphunky and for me, Barbara. I will see you in my next review. I think we will be returning to the world of Rement for those. I don't know if I'm going to have another Integrity to review before next week. Maybe, maybe not. Otherwise, we'll be back to action figures too. And I hope you guys will stick around. And again, I just want to take another minute to say thank you to everyone who is new to this space, who is subscribing, who is telling their friends about this space. Thank you, as always. I appreciate the support. Continue to tell people about me. I welcome one and all to this wonderful world where we can play and explore together. Take care. Bye-bye.